Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm Kendall Richardson, thank you for joining me as I share my thoughts on episode 3 of What If, which is titled What If Earth Lost Its Mightiest Heroes. Very ominous title, because there's some pretty ominous things going down in this episode. This is indeed the darkest timeline. Because this is a pretty big game changer in terms of what if storylines you can do to basically prevent the Avengers from ever assembling by way of murder. It's pretty game changing. So I really love that. Like, that's a super ultra bizarro world kind of concept that I'm here for, and I really like. I really enjoy watching that stuff, so that's awesome. I really love the way this episode one of the cool things about What If so far, apart from being, alternate versions of what we know in the MCU, the fact that, like, a lot of moments are still kind of happening as they were, so we're getting to see animated versions of iconic scenes from the previous films. So, we got we don't have too many of that in the first episode, but especially in episode 2 with, like, Yondu's ship landing in Wakanda, but still having that same kind of parallel of a shot between Guardians 1 and What If episode 2. But then here, I suppose it's where it's done the most, where we actually have scenes basically recreated shot for shot in animation form, starting with Iron Man 2. We've got that iconic shot of Tony in the Iron Man suit without the helmet, and he's sitting in the donut eating donuts, and Fury rocks up, and then they're sitting in the donut shop, and all of that stuff happens basically the way it goes. And when Natasha injects Tony with the concoction that is going to save him, or at least prevent him from dying quicker, he ends up dying instead, which was and that happens immediately. Like, that's the way the show kind of opens with this going on. So that's pretty cool. We also get a recreation in animated form of Thor storming the SHIELD setup base to try and be worthy of Mjolnir again, pretty much exactly the way it was done. Like, a lot of similar shots were used in this, which was really cool. And what else was there that was the same? I suppose General Ross showing up at Culver University to confront the Hulk. That was very similar, if not the exact same as well, with just the way that the location and the way that his forces rocked up was the same. I feel like I'm forgetting some others, but it was interesting too, by the same token, like, I guess on the flip side of it really, is the fact that you have all of these like for like kind of recreations, and then you also have skewed versions of things that happened. So, like, especially to all the stuff to do with Loki was very cool, but very, like, same but different sort of thing, which I found really interesting, just especially with a lot of his dialogue was dialogue taken from Avengers, but it was used here and in a different but similar context, if that makes sense. So that was pretty cool. And then the whole, there was an idea speech is kind of quoted several times throughout the episode, which I'm always here for references to that speech. Every time I hear there was an idea, I just get chills. It's pretty fantastic. So, but I really liked this episode overall. I don't think I liked it as much as episode 2, just because episode 2 was a lot of fun, and it really kind of, I don't know how to phrase this, but I don't know, I just the Thanos of it all I really enjoyed, and I'm still thinking about it over a week later. I really enjoyed that stuff. And T'Challa being Star-Lord was just really cool, even though he was very perfect as Star-Lord. Maybe too perfect, but I still thought it was pretty cool. So there was a lot of fun last week. It was a lot more lighter, whereas this episode is a lot darker, obviously, because someone's taking out the Avengers one by one, and we don't know who. So I like the fact that it's also a murder mystery in that sense, who done it, if you will, because we don't know who's behind this or why yet. And so we have Natasha Romanoff and Nick Fury trying both, to separate of each other to figure out who's behind this, to track them down and put a stop to it before they take everybody out. So it's kind of a race against time as well. But it's just crazy that, like Tony Stark dies, Natasha gets arrested even though she didn't do it. Nick Fury knows straight away she did not do that. She never would. Hawkeye as well, he gets blamed for killing Thor, even though, he reckons he didn't, but his arrow came loose and went through, but it was, we know who was really behind it. But that scene of him in his cell being like, I never mess up, I never miss, like it was kind of sad to watch, but yeah, good at the same time. Just how, I don't know, it was just, I forgot my point I was making. It's gone. It's gone. Just the seriousness of like, okay. And then the fact that that Hawkeye killing Thor really just sets off a chain of events that kind of set up the rest of the episode, which is really cool as well. I did like how Natasha kind of got her own Winter Soldier Steve in the elevator scene in the car. I mean, it wasn't as good, obviously, but it was a nice, kind of subtle throwback to that moment, which was awesome. What else can I say, I suppose? I just really want to talk about Loki, of course, because of course I want to talk about Loki. I knew he was going to be in this episode because I kept seeing, basically every time I looked at the What If page on IMDb, a picture of him was coming up as the picture for the episode. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be the Loki episode of this, the stuff that we've seen in the trailers. That pretty much looks like it. So I don't know if he's ever going to be in another episode down the track. If they do end up doing these kind of crossovers between the different worlds down the line as well, it could happen. I mean, if What If gets a season 2, which could happen, there's always hope. Well, not in this universe. But anyway, really cool to kind of have a different but same version of Loki. It's kind of what I was saying earlier, like similar but different. Different but still similar in a way, because this is Loki from Thor 1, who plotted to kind of take Thor down and steal the throne from Odin, or at least from Thor. So this is this Loki who has arrived on Earth to avenge Thor's death, or to get justice for his death, which was interesting, because he's still kind of a villain here, or still kind of an antagonist, at least, for our heroes, for Earth, because obviously he's come to, he doesn't care what the cost is. But I kind of like the fact that he actually had Asgard backing him up, but I suppose it's obviously because of the fact that, Thor's been banished to Midgard and someone on Midgard has killed him. So the Asgardians are not going to look too favourably upon that. No mention as to whether or not Odin is in the Odin sleep yet. My money's on yes, because I imagine Odin himself would have rocked up if he wasn't in the Odin sleep. So so I think we're kind of past that point of the first Thor movie where that happens, and that's where Loki comes, and he's got a bit of stubble going on, which is interesting, and I was like, I want that live action, please, that'd be nice. So he's clearly grieving, but at the same time, he's doing what Loki does, which is grandstand, which is not show his true nature, his true feelings. Especially at this point in the timeline, he's not as developed as he is in the Loki show that we know now. So it's, you know, it's a slightly younger, slightly, you know, less mature, less developed Loki. So he's not going to be, you know, the fact that we don't really see him too emotional over his brother's death is, you know, not entirely out of character. You know, he would be grieving in private completely, which, you know, makes perfect sense. I think just the presence, the idea that he's leading the fight to avenge his brother, I think speaks volumes to me. So that's pretty cool. The only problem I had with Loki's appearance in this episode, I think, was the fact that he has the casket of ancient winters, and when he uses it, he doesn't turn blue. Not okay. I'm not okay with that. That's not how this works. Continuity, guys. Loki's a frost giant, and in the first Thor film, the 2 times we saw him hold this casket, he turned, like, his frost giant form was revealed. Like, you know, so his skin turned blue, his eyes turned red, the markings appeared on his face. Like, and in this, there's none of that. They didn't have to go into too much detail. I mean, it's you know, this kind of animation is not too intense, and because he doesn't really change too much physically, it's just a simple matter of rendering a blue on him instead of the beige, you know, skin colour. At least that's what I would think, but I'm not an expert, so feel free to at me in the comments if I'm being a bit harsh on it. But with all the money that they have, I feel like it's something they could have done, so it seems to me like it's kind of an oversight that they've just not done it, or like a lot of Loki fans seem to think it might be frost giant erasure, really, because they haven't really kind of acknowledged Loki's heritage since the first Thor film. Has not been mentioned at all, with the one exception in the Loki series where we see a variant of Loki as one of those holograms that is pure frost giant Loki. You know, he only presents as his true self, which was cool. I'm like, I want to see that guy. I want to see more of that. Let's, you know, fingers crossed we'll get that in season 2. Probably not, but, you know. But it's not hard to have a little bit of continuity going on, so I felt a bit let down by the people behind this for them to miss that a little bit. So that's shitty. But regardless, it was a lot of fun to see a kind of villainous side of Loki again, this old school Loki from phase 1. Always happy to see more of him. So I thought that was really cool. I really liked how he got to, you know, take down the bad, like help Nick Fury, like him and Nick Fury team up to take down the bad guy of the episode, which was cool. You know, even though he never got to actually fight Thor and use his duplication casting to, you know, have, you know, that lovely shot of like the multiple Lokis laughing at Thor. It happens here in this instead of in the original Thor film. So that's what I was kind of getting at earlier with like the same things happening but in different ways, in different contexts, which I think is really cool. And then the fact that at the end of the day he's just like, oh yeah, you know, while I'm here, I guess I'll just take over the whole planet. For funsies, why not? So he's still kind of this power-hungry, you know, god, I suppose, which is, yeah, interesting. So interesting, like that, because the events of Loki, sorry, the events of Thor haven't fully played out yet. So he hasn't been rejected by his father. He hasn't fallen off the Bifrost and into the clutches of Thanos, and been tortured and manipulated and all of that and twisted into this, you know, evil figure that we meet in Avengers 1. That has not happened at all. And the Loki we see in Avengers 1, he, you know, as Thor puts it, you know, he's like, so you take Midgard as recompense for your imagined slights, and you know, and Loki's like, no, I was born to be a king. I was raised to be a king, to rule. I deserve a kingdom, and you know, Thanos is giving him that opportunity by, you know, being like, go get my Infinity Stones and you can have Midgard, you know, compromise. You know, win-win for both of us. You get what you want, I get what I want. But of course that's not happening here. So it's like, well, why? Because the Loki that fights Thor at the end, he says specifically to him, he's like, I never wanted the throne, I only ever wanted to be your equal. You know, and I suppose the fall of him and Odin's rejection of him is a big part of why he decides to, you know, feel like he can claim a kingdom because he feels he's owed one. Whereas, you know, before that, he doesn't want, I don't think he just doesn't want Thor to rule. But I think obviously there's a part of him that enjoys ruling and wants to rule. Because we do see that in Thor as well, you know, when he's like, you know, when there's a lovely deleted scene where Frigga actually crowns him the king of Asgard because of Odin being asleep, you know, in a coma, and Thor, you know, on Midgard. He's the next in line for the throne. And then, you know, we get the scenes of him ordering the Warriors 3 and Sif around and all of that. So, yeah. Obviously we know he likes to rule and stuff. So it's not entirely out of left field for him to want to take over Midgard at the end of this episode. But it's interesting. There's a lot of, like, psychology you could get into with it. Again, you know, I'm just proving how much I adore this character because I'm just spending all my time about this episode talking about him. Of course. Is anyone surprised? No. I don't think anyone's surprised about this. Least of all me. But anyway, yeah. But no, I really, everything they did with Loki except the Casket of Ancient Winters, that's the only thing I didn't like in this episode. And it's so cool to hear Tom Hiddleston as this Loki. Like, he's got just the best voice ever, really. He can do anything. And I really enjoyed his take on Loki in this way, it was very cool. Very, very cool. Speaking of voices, I should mention that we have a majority of the characters in this are actually voiced by the MCU counterparts, with some exceptions. Of course, the big exception we have is that Scarlett Johansson is not voicing Natasha Romanoff in this. And can I just be clear and say that has nothing to do with the lawsuit that's currently going on? I don't know why that it is at all. Again, I'm kind of getting to this point where I'm like, just why can't you get all of the actors? If you can get like 85% of them, why can't you get the other 15%? It just kind of doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, for some reason she's not voicing in it. Again, nothing to do with the lawsuit. So here we have Lake Bell voicing Natasha instead, who I think does a really good job. In a lot of scenes she sounds a lot like Scarlett. With just kind of this like husky voice that she has, but there are other scenes where it's like, oh, you know, that's not Black Widow and that's not, you know, it's just is what it is. But I thought her performance was fine. I liked it. I have seen that other people didn't really seem to like it that much, so that's unfortunate for them. But I thought she did a fine job for me. Like she was serviceable as Natasha. I liked it. We had Mick Weingart as Tony Stark, very briefly at the start. Stephanie Panisello was the voice of Betty Ross. Very noticeable, different voice from between her and Liv Tyler. They really could have found someone that maybe sounded a lot more similar. Unless it's been, I mean, I know it's been a long time since I've seen The Incredible Hulk, but I'm fairly certain Liv Tyler's Betty Ross doesn't sound like that. But maybe I'm just being nitpicky. I don't know. She did an okay job. It just didn't sound anything like Liv Tyler to me, and I feel like they could have done better, but again, nitpicking. We had Michael Patrick McGill as General Thunderbolt Ross in his little brief scene. Fine impression of Mr. William Hurt. Yeah, I was happy with that. Yeah, totally fine. And then the last major difference, we had Alexandra Daniels as Carol Danvers for her one line at the end of the episode, which kind of mimicked Bucky's line Infinity War when she says, "Where's the fight?" That's pretty cool. But again, why couldn't they get Brie Larson to do one line? They got Michael Douglas to do a bunch of lines in this, and he's like 80. I don't get it. But anyway, it's fine. But yeah, only those actors were played by different people. Everyone else was them. I loved Samuel L. Jackson's performance in this episode as Nick Fury. He did a fantastic job. Always entertaining. I would love all the more Sam Jackson as Nick Fury you can give me. I'll take it. I'm fairly certain he's going to be in Secret Invasion, the live-action Disney Plus series, which they're in prep for at the moment. So that's going to be fantastic to see. Michael Douglas. So let's talk about the culprit behind the events of this episode. So it is revealed through Natasha and Nick Fury's digging, research, investigating, if you will, into who could be behind this and responsible. They find out that it's Hank Pym, because Hope Van Dyne in this universe, and this is the nexus event, if you will, of this, is the fact that she's actually a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent here. So maybe she wanted to be like her mum, but maybe she didn't know. I don't know. Because she didn't know her mum was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. I don't think. She finds out in Ant-Man 1, I'm pretty sure, or Ant-Man 2. But yeah, maybe she wanted to follow in her mum's footsteps, or maybe she just wanted to do some right, used her father's connections and became an agent somehow. I don't know. They don't explain it. Not important. Basically, she gets killed on a mission. And here's the cool reference. The fact that she's on this mission, it's like where this mission happens is the cool thing, because it takes place just outside of Odessa, Ukraine. And this is a reference to Captain America Winter Soldier, when Natasha is talking to Steve about the Winter Soldier being a real thing. She was on a mission outside of Odessa, and the Winter Soldier, took them out. And Natasha obviously survived. But, she was still gravely injured and nearly died. However, we have the same events happen as so Natasha. Hope's there, and Hope was killed. So, and that serves as the catalyst, the Nexus event, that changes everything, and causes Hank Pym to become a Yellow Jacket. He's not Ant-Man in this. He's wearing the Yellow Jacket outfit, or a variation of it. And I didn't actually know Hank Pym was Yellow Jacket for a time in the comics, which is interesting. Gives it a lot more depth to him as a character. So he's the one that's been going around taking out, because he found, he hacked into S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files and found the Avengers Initiative plans with everyone listed, and then basically Thor was a coincidence. Really. Steve Rogers was still in the ice at this point. They were just about to uncover him. Because basically all of these events are happening simultaneously. So the events of Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Thor are all happening at the same time. Which is actually a reference to, and I think maybe the inspiration for this episode came from this. There was a tie-in comic that came out in 2012 called Fury's Big Week, which basically gave the S.H.I.E.L.D. perspective of the events of those three films leading up to the first Avengers film, which is pretty cool. So I think that maybe because we have the framing here throughout this episode of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc. So maybe that's got something to do with it. I think that's pretty cool anyway. So yeah, all of these are happening at the same time. And I had a point and I lost it again. So, but anyway, so Hank's killed all the Avengers. And we haven't gotten to, that's the point I was making, we haven't gotten to Captain America First Avenger yet, because Steve's still on the ice, and we see that at the end of the episode. But yeah, I love the final climax, and, it was, Hank Pym's a good antagonist, I think, for this episode because, you know, he has motivation, there's emotional stakes involved. It's kind of ironic that he's, like, killing the Avengers in order to avenge his daughter, which I think is funny. Not funny, haha, funny, but just, you know, interesting. But cool, you know, just in a, you know, storytelling way. And yeah, I just love the way that, yeah, Fury and Loki team up. And Loki gets to use his abilities to take down Fury. And I was fooled at first because, you know, Fury started like avoiding every single punch and hit that came his way, and you know, Hank Pym's like, you're pretty spry for a desk jockey, basically, or for a guy who works at a corner desk or whatever he says. And I didn't even pick that it was Loki until, you know, I think until multiples of the, like, or until the teleporting side. I think that's when I picked it up. I was like, it's Loki. That makes sense. So that, I thought that was very cool. Michael Douglas did a great job as Hank Pym in this episode. Brilliant. Very, very good. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say. It was great to see Mark Ruffalo as an Edward Norton Hulk. You know, kind of getting the taste of him a little bit, what we never got, really, you know, because it would have been really cool if it had worked out that we could have had Mark Ruffalo in The Incredible Hulk. But alas, never meant to be. So here it was nice to get a small glimpse of that. Yeah, I don't really have a lot else to say. Oh, actually, I would have one more thing to say before I finish, and that is Coulson. Clark Gregg as mother frickin' Phil Coulson. Again, nailing it, crushing it. I love him so much. He's fantastic. 10 out of 10. Just brilliant. Really cool to see some Phase 1 Coulson. You know, he hasn't been killed yet, so he's still, you know, that spry, kind of idealistic fanboy agent that we first meet. And, you know, the jokes about him being in love with Steve Rogers are there. Like, his password he has to give to Natasha so she can log in to the files is, and I wrote it down, hashtag Steve, I heart Steve 0704. That's his password. Oh, funny. Yeah, so I liked that, and I liked his kind of, it was interesting that they decided to go with the kind of slightly different take of Coulson engaging with Thor for the first time here. They decided to make him more of a fanboy over Thor as well, so he's like remarking at how beautiful his hair is when he first sees him. He even says he smells like lavender even as his body is rotting, and I was just like, all right, mate, slow your roll. Settle down a little bit. But it tracks, considering, you know, how, like, kind of, not creepy, but just how kind of intense he is in Avengers 1 when he's like, you know, well, I've kind of met you, you know, I watched you while you were sleeping, you know. Classic. But yeah, so that was really nice to see Coulson again and to have some more fanboying from him over our male Avengers. That was great. So yeah, I don't think I have much else to mention. It was a really great episode. Really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more. Lots of fun. I don't know where we're going next. I think there's a Doctor Strange episode coming. There's a zombie episode coming. Interesting and exciting things are on the way. So stay tuned for more from me. Feel free to like and share and subscribe to us on Fred the Alien if you want to see more videos from me and my counterparts on this channel. There's also reaction videos that I do, most recently Eternals and that insane Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. Go check them out, they're on the channel right now, and yeah, and subscribe for more. Don't miss out. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, I've been a Kendall Richardson, and you've just experienced non-scripted rambling.